Year 10s, I hope this finds you super well and ready for our next chemistry session. Before we carry on, today we're going to have a quick look at some annotations that are useful to have on your periodic table at home. So if you can please print a copy and annotate it as we carry on with this video. So pause now if you need to, and bring your periodic table for the rest of the video. Okay, right, so over here we have, as you well know, the periodic table of elements, and it's at the back of your exam paper, and if you annotate it and use it for your chemistry, you'll realize that there's so many bits of useful information from this table. So as you know, we started with the group 1 elements last time, so we can just label this the alkali metals because they form alkaline solutions when they react with water. And group 2 is the alkali earth metals. I always remember it's got two parts to the name, alkali earth and then metals. Now group 3 is between group 2 and 3 of the periodic table, and this group over here is known as the transition metals. They are your typical metals, transition metals. And then the next group that we have to know the name of is group 7 is the halogens, and group 8 is the noble or the inert gases. Now this group is very special because they've got a full outer shell, and that means that they don't need to react with anything because they've got everything that they need. So when I go to the alkali metals, when I get my periodic table, I always draw an arrow going down group 1 and group 2, because we know as we go down the group it gets more reactive. So more reactive. And this reminds me, so if I get stuck in the test I can always just check. And then if I go to group 7 of the periodic table, it's exactly the opposite. So as I go up the group, it gets more reactive. So those two arrows, always remember they're opposites. As I go down this side, up that side, it gets more reactive. The other bit of useful information to use, group 1 elements, because they're in group 1, they're going to have 1 electron in the outer shell. Group 2 are going to have 2 electrons in the outer shell. Group 5 is going to have 5 electrons in its outer shell, and group 4 is going to have 4 electrons in its outer shell. So the group number always tells me the number of electrons in the outer shell. So when I draw the halogens, I expect to find 7 electrons in the outer shell. So a nice way to check that you are on the right track in your work. The next thing is when you get asked to draw ions. Now group 1 elements with that 1 electron in the outer shell, they're going to try and get rid of that electron so that they get left with a full shell. And because they're getting rid of that 1 electron, there's one more proton than electron. So group 1 elements always form a 1+ ion. Group 2 forms a 2+ ion. Group 3 forms a 3+ ion. And you get the idea, if this could form an ion, it would be 4+. And that's halfway, 1 to 8, 4 is halfway. So we go 3-, 2-, 1-, and of course our noble gases, they've already got a full outer shell, so they don't form ions. Everybody wants to be like the cool kids in group 8. Now while I'm on this side of the periodic table, the periods or the rows also tell me some useful information, and always start on this side, 1, because if you start on this side you'll start 1 below in row 2, and then it will all be a mess. So start on this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And this tells me the number of shells that my atom will have. So basically, as I go down the period, I'm going to have more shells. So I can straight away say that phosphorus is in group 5 and it's in period 3. So I expect 5 electrons in the outer shell, and I expect 3 shells to be used. Right, what else is useful information? I always like this one. So hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen, HON, like the word honey, and the whole of group 7, you see I've made a number 7. All of those are what we call the diatomic molecules. Diatomic molecules. Now this is so important to remember, because if you get asked to draw a symbol equation, you need to realize that chlorine is never found on its own. It's always found as 2 of the same atoms joined together, Cl2. So that's how I quickly remember them. And then the other very useful thing is I find boron. Don't be a moron, look out for boron. And I draw my staircase. And as I'm sure some of you can figure out straight away, my staircase, anything on the right hand side of my staircase is a non-metal. The only exception is I have to include hydrogen in there, and anything on the left hand side are my metals. So if I've got a compound made up of a metal and a non-metal, I know they join together, I'm going to get ionic bonding. If it's just non-metals, I'm going to get covalent bonding, and if it's just a metal on its own, I'm going to get metallic bonding. I find this helps me with almost every topic in chemistry. So with your notes, with your work that you're doing at home, always have your periodic table ready. Keep well, look after yourself, and keep following what is on Show My Homework.